Hello, my name is Nikita, and you're listening to Be Do Have, a podcast about personal and spiritual journeys that will lead us to create who we want to be, do things from that place of being to have what we want and need. So today's topic, we will be discussing Tantra sex, and I have a special guest, Goddess Jessie, on the line just to give us all the details and all we need to know about how sexuality meets spirituality. So what's up, Jessie?
Oh man, so much is up. I'm vibrating high. I got prepared for today's episode. I've had a very tantric week since the
Okay.
full moon
Yes.
ceremony, but I had a tantric night with a partner, and so I have plenty of things to talk about. So I'm vibrating high right now.
Okay, I'm here for it. So today, as Jesse and I just mentioned, we will be discussing the connection between sexuality and spirituality. So I know for me, I was raised to believe that sexuality was something that you hide, you kind of tuck it away until you're married, or whatever happens between a man and his wife is their business, and it wasn't discussed any further. That was pretty much it. There wasn't any instructions on how to embrace your sexuality. Sexuality wasn't an identity. If
Hmm.
anything, I was raised to believe that being submissive to your husband was the godly way to be. And that was the only idea that I had about sexuality. But
Right.
as I started researching and experiencing life for myself, I quickly discovered that there is a strong connection between sexuality and spirituality. And I don't have to compartmentalize the two. I can
Right.
experience them both simultaneously whenever and however I choose to experience them. And Jesse will go into more detail about all of that for us shortly. But before we get started, Jesse, did you have any intentions for the show, or did you set any intentions for your day or anything that you would like to share?
Well, my intentions for today were to bring together the various, strengths or goals or things that I have going on and, find a flow and a synergy with them so that I can, be stable and in the week strong and all those things. So that was a personal intention I did make. But for the listeners and for the show specifically, I would say I want to leave you um, fuller and closer to bridging the gap between spirituality and sexuality in knowledge and in your feeling and your body. I want you to leave here knowing something that you did not know before that you can use tonight.
Ashe, Ashe. So, just to start out, tell us a little bit about Jesse and how you've come to be this beautiful, mystic being.
Man, so yeah, I am the um creator, owner, operator, and mother goddess of the Sweet Love Sanctuary. And here we say knowing is exempt from healing. And, we do a lot of training, we do a lot of education, we do a lot of events around African spirituality, around, connected to nature, around the goddess lifestyle, and that goddess lifestyle is something that I feel like I've built over my whole life. It's nothing that I think I was born a goddess. It's not something that you just become, but it is something that you cultivate. And from my
Hmm.
background as a tantric practitioner, my background in voodoo, and my background in Orisha, and my background in spiritual modalities overall, you know, I use all that knowledge to help people, but specifically women, to discover and develop their gifts and all those things. And that's what fuels me as a Oshun priestess. That is my goal, my thing that I'm here to do, to help other women, realize their goddess within so that they can live a more purposeful and orgasmic and prosperous lifestyle. So, that's a little bit about me. It's so much more, there, but we'll dive into it as we continue to just like explore.
For sure. So why do you think you chose to come here and have this human experience?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think that when I was in line, I decided to come back to help bring back the balance of the matriarchy and masculine energy. I think that I came down here, like I have a specific purpose to blow people's minds. Like I think God was like, okay, you're going to come down here and you're going to like when people have those brain explosion moments, like I put you here so that you can, give people those moments so that they can expand. I also feel like I came back to help people have great first experiences so that they can, create positive, what do you call them, like cycles? Because that first time is, sets the flow for how you experience things. If you're going to have traumas, if you're going to have trust, all those things. So I think God put me here to try things out and experience them and become kind of like a subject matter expert, so to speak, in that way, so that I could tell the other people who may not have done it yet or who are scared or fearful or whatever, and kind of like make a trail for other people to walk, kind of thing. Kind of like a pussy Harriet Tubman. But
I love that.
But yeah, I think that that's the thing. Go ahead.
Okay, so I have two questions for you. When you said the balance between the matriarchy and the patriarchy, because at one point in time and one point of history, matriarchy society was the norm. And then eventually that kind of, I guess, shifted into this patriarchy that we're both experiencing right now today. So do you think the next cycle is a balance between the two, that we walk side by side and there's a partnership as opposed to one or the other on top?
So yes and no. I think that, because I said the balance between the matriarchy and masculine energy. And the thing is, I feel like, the patriarchy is a product of the matriarchy doing things the wrong way. And so I feel like men, or that masculine energy, has its place, but we need to, I think, just take a party away, kind of like Democrats and Republicans. I don't feel like the answer is like ever for them to switch, or even for them to be like balanced, because we have that already. We have Democrats, have Republicans in every, whatever, but it still isn't working. House. I feel like really the answer is one of us has got to give and trust that we will be inclusive. You know what I'm saying? And truly come together as one. I understand from what I was taught that back in the day when the matriarchy ruled society, there got to a point to where we treated the men, we treated the masculine energy like how they treat us now, maybe even worse. And so over time, they rebelled and they yielded the things that they had, which was their strength, which was, certain things, and that intuitiveness and that connectivity to everything and that interdependence that the matriarchy oozes so that we all flow like in synergy got off balance because we were wrong. We did the men wrong, so then now we flip the script and, the karma has kind of swung the other way. And I do think that the answer is for it to go back to how it was, but for us to not do the men like slaves, to just honor them so that things can be in balance, because that's how the world is set up. The world is set up that the feminine creates, and the masculine kind of like populates, And so I just think that, like, when I say the sanctuary, that it's a woman's world, I say that because the earth is feminine, So
True.
I'm not saying it in one is higher or one is less or anything like that. I'm just saying what is. And so I do feel like if we could get things back, I mean, not to say that there wouldn't be male leaders, not to say all those things, but just to understand that everyone comes out of the vagina. Everything comes from the woman. But we know that we could not do it without the men. And I think if we come from that aspect, then we will have divine feminine and we will have divine masculine, versus this imbalance of, I wouldn't even say one or the other, but because I don't feel like you can be divine masculine without the feminine. But you know what I'm saying? Like just cutting out the two sides and really bringing it into one, but having it be, I guess, like female centered and masculine, like shell, if that makes sense. Okay. To kind of go more with, like, within versus like,
So kind of exist the way, like, so kind of like existing how we're supposed to exist, where one isn't higher or greater than the other, but we're almost codependent on each other and just have that respect and understanding. Do you believe like there should be roles to that?
I was going to say
understanding your role, but
I would say more interdependent than codependent. I think what we have in the matriarchy and the patriarchy is codependent, but I think that the roles should be by the human, not by the gender.
Okay.
Right? And that if everybody gets into a place where how you're asking me, why did I come back to Earth? You know what I'm saying? To spread happiness, to do these things. Some people, like, once you know what your destiny is, whether it's how someone may say it looks good or not, you're in such alignment that you can't help but to like feel good in it and to be positive. You know what I'm saying? So if if there's a man who is the ultimate baker and he's the ultimate this and he's extremely organized and he's this and he ends up being someone that can create a very strong home, and build that and cultivate that, I don't think that we should say that he shouldn't do it because he's a man and the man's supposed to go out and you know what I'm saying? I think back in antiquitous times, some of the best warriors could have been women. Some of the best, it could have, the roles were not, we go and we watch Vikings, we watch those old shows, and sometimes there are cases where, you know what I'm saying, the person that's taking care of the whole village is an old man that's cooking for everyone and making sure, you know what I'm saying, and the biggest warrior that's out is someone's daughter, so I think that people need to get more in alignment with what their destiny is. And then once they figure that out, then just follow those roles. And then you get with people that the roles fall together. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, my dad is a huge provider. He works, but I've seen him cook. I've seen him clean. I've seen him, you know what I'm saying? He combed my hair one time when I was little. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just like, I guess I don't totally subscribe to specific gender roles. I just know me as a person. Like, as a goddess, there's just some things I don't do or I do, and it happens to be on the side of the feminine or of the female,
Right.
But I can pull my daddy out if I need to because I am two-spirit, and I know that about myself.
I like that. So I'm also a firm believer in the beauty that is on the other side of our pain and all the trauma that we've endured. It wasn't in vain. We actually had to go through those experiences because of our ultimate destiny on why we came here. So can you kind of speak to what are some of the traumas or trials and tribulations that you had to experience in order to sit here and be Goddess Jessie right now?
Oh, for sure. So before I was Goddess Jessie, I was, Jesse Owens, actually. And I was married, and, I would say every checkbox on the American dream except for have a kid.
Mm.
I went to school. I graduated with honors. I went to college. I was a cheerleader. I graduated with honors. I married my college sweetheart. Went into a corporate Fortune 200 company. He went into a Fortune 200 company. We lived together. We got married. We bought a house. We, opened up a business. I did all those things, right? And I think at one point in time, we got to a point where we're like, now what? Like that's the journey of what they sell us here in America or whatever. And, obviously I'm not married anymore, but so things I got divorced. And in that divorce, I would say that my blissful life kind of caught on fire. And through that fire of separating, a marriage, and I didn't have a child, but I had a business. I had a CrossFit gym that we owned together. And to let that baby go and to let that, investment of life go and to start over, the first thing I did was I took a 30-day detox reset. And I had this long list on a piece of paper of how I was going to live my life for the next 30 days. And that, coupled with having a few mystic people in my life that, or maybe one or two, that put a deck of tarot cards in front of me, or that told me about what this herb does holistically, but also spiritually, it started to cultivate a space for me where I got curious, and I started to go deep into herbs and all those things because I wanted to heal in totality from the things that I experienced from a divorce. It's a traumatic experience. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And my divorce, I know, wasn't even as bad as how I've heard, from other people. So that trauma of having to start over, it launched me into my greatness and launched me into my spiritual journey and my spiritual path and healing. And I did a journey called Sacred Woman by Queen Afua. And I did it with a group of women, and we went through the 90-day process. And I think we actually did it for like 180 days. But at the end of it all, eating differently, praying differently, thinking about life differently, thinking about yourself differently, it changed my life to where what I wanted to do, which was travel every month, and I had a podcast at the time and all that stuff, it all came to fruition. And I was operating in a different space, more in line with my passion and my purpose, because I was teaching about sexual freedom and liberation and untabooing taboo topics, around the country and things like that. So that trauma, of dealing with that. And, I had certain experiences with various relationship styles, all that stuff. And I teach to that, and I support in that now through the experience. Like I said, I'm brought here to this earth to go have all of these experiences and then be able to tell someone, yeah, this is going to be the way to go. Or no, this, not just because it didn't work for me, but because I have felt into the energy of that whole space. And I could tell you, what I'm saying, and guide you so that you don't have to go through those traumas or what have you. So that's, I would say what launched me into being Goddess Jessie and becoming a priestess was my divorce. And we all know for women, it's hard to sometimes go on that like independent route totally when you've been with somebody for so long. But taking that leap and starting from scratch and going from that void, you know, I say darkness, but not because it's dark, but because it's just a void there now. And deciding to do the work and learn and grow and forgive and, you know, all those things releases that resentment and releases a lot of stuff and allows space for intuition and for that energy to actually expose itself, you know, and be used in the right places. So that's my story.
Do you see marriage in the cards for Goddess Jessie?
Oh man. You know, I feel like I have become one of the most unconventional people that I know on this planet.
I agree.
I did the marriage thing, and I feel like I can still have that the way I want to. I can have it without going and getting a marriage license and all that stuff. I can still have a wedding. I can still have all kind of stuff, you know. You know, I'm spiritually married to somebody to this day, you know, because of certain practices and ceremony and ritual that happens. But so I would say yes, but I think that my marriage will be I don't think it'll be a coupling. I think it'll be more like a nest, like my little love nest. Oh, and I have, you know, various people that I'm connected to or that support me. And some may be in my close vicinity and some may not. But I think that I will end up in the end having very strong connections and commitments with probably, you know, maybe a handful or less of people, you know, and we ride life out to the end together in whatever ways we support each other. Does that make any sense?
Girl, yes, because I'm the same way. And I was telling my lash tech this a while back that I've come to the realization that I don't want a traditional standard marriage or relationship. Like, I kind of want to do my own thing over here. You do your own thing over there, and we meet in the middle. And he was like, well, that sounds like a friends with benefits. I said, no, it's not that, because I want that connection. You know, I want all of those things that you would get from a relationship or a marriage. I just don't want it to play out the same way, because I really value my independence. I really value my space and my alone time and my me time. Like that's when I grow the most. That's when I get most intimate and connected with Source, with God, with my higher self, is when I'm alone, when I'm away, when I'm unplugged. So I don't want to lose that.
Right. And, you know, I've thought, see, because I don't have children, right? And it's been prophesied that I will. Even I just had a ceremony that we did for Papa Legba, and the spirit came down and poked in my belly and was like, so, you know, it says that it's in the cards for me. And so not having children yet, I know that if I did go that route, that I would have some semblance of at least a nesting partner and somebody that, you know, because I'm not gonna, you know, raise my kids, you know, in a, you know, where I want my partner to be living with me. I want all hands on deck.
Right. The family. Yeah.
But also too, I want, to have support where my child has 4 moms and 3 dads. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and has that more like it takes a village type deal. And all these connections are, you know, pure and, you know, in love and all those things. So I know that it's going to be, because I thought about having a cohabitating with a partner, but maybe still having my own room and they could have their own room and we live together. You know, that's not normal. Yeah. That's still like,
no, that's not,
you know, and it kind of almost brings me back to like in the 50s or whatever, when they used to have 2 separate beds in the bedroom.
Yeah.
You know? And
it was always crazy. So weird to watch it.
weird, but
Yes.
when you think about it in a different sense, like I want to be interdependent with someone. I don't want to necessarily cultivate that routine and codependence in that way. I think to
Yeah.
be able to have it be long lasting, I want to be able to have that commitment, but then also even flow a little bit when life switches, you know what I'm saying? And not mean that I have to just be stuck in a place because this is what I picked 20 years ago, but also have to leave it because life is evolving, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
I'm going to see how it comes out because, I have my mind can get very focused on things. And, once I decide to become a mom, things may temper down a little bit, but I still can't see myself ever being like, I'm only going to love this one person and it's us two against the world. I want to have this empire against the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that you, after this time, because you are changing people's lives, like, I talk about you a lot. You've really changed my life with the Goddess Bath. Do you feel like you would come back, or you would choose to come back and have this human experience again? Or do you think that you're done after this?
I honestly think I'm done after this. But the only way I know that I'll be done is if, yes, I make the impact that I'm supposed to make, continuing to grow this, but also if I find and train and crown my successor before I die. That's what I'm taught from my elders, that you cannot totally be gone and not come back until you have trained your successor that will continue what you had. That's why children is such a big thing. But in this day and age, it doesn't necessarily have to be your blood child. But that's why I train and cultivate goddesses all over really the world. Because I had a client in Antigua. I've had, people in many places. And through that, somebody will rise to the top, I believe, by the time I'm, 91, I think is about when I'm done. That can carry on the torch and take it to a whole nother level, where men are serving the feminine from their heart, you know what I'm saying? And women are delivering to the masculine from their heart. And then, you know what I'm saying? We're living like I've had moments in this past since Costa Rica where I'm like, this is heaven on earth. Like I'm in heaven,
Yay.
And if more people can have more moments like that throughout, like that, to me, that's the goal for me, is to be able to get people in their life where like, this is my heaven on earth. You know what I'm saying? I have this kind of life. I have this type of job. I have this land, I'm that, and if I die tomorrow, I'm okay, And so, yeah, I think that because I've lived a lot of lifetimes. If I came back, shoot, honestly, I don't know. I guess you can always be dealt a better hand and, we choose, but I did a really good job this time, and I think I just want to go out with a bang.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've sort of found that person that can continue, that you can pass the torch to, that can continue your legacy, or is it still up in the air right now?
It's still up in the air. There's a lot of potential, but this is a lifetime journey, and I'm still becoming a master of, what I'm doing. I have subject matter expert, foundations and roots and grow, but this tree is still, you know what I'm saying? Doing it's cultivating too. So I would definitely say, as I continue to mold that, more people will come, and it may end up surprising me. That's what I feel like. But I did crown a successor at one point, and once the training part kind of started, the connection didn't, stay solidified. So, if I felt what I felt at that time, and you never know what happens in life, it may still happen. And that person, will come back around and pick right back up where we left off and carry it on for me. But I'm open, and I don't think it has to necessarily be one person.
I can see that. And it definitely doesn't. I feel like this task, this journey that you're on, your mission is heavy. It's a lot. So if it is multiple people, just like you say, you have other subject matter experts in training or people who are on the same path and same journey as you are, and y'all are in the same place. Like, it definitely takes a village. It cannot be done. Yeah. Or I'm not going to say it cannot, but it's a lot easier when you have a village.
Well, I don't think you can do it alone, because we're not alone. You know what I'm saying? You can't do it without the trees. You can't do it without the river. You cannot do it. So, it is very heavy. I mean, I know that one of my purposes is to dismantle misogyny in African traditional practices, and the way that, authority and the religion part of it and the relationship part of it, because it's family, it's community. So we're going to be getting together. The way that those things happen, be balanced, and women not get taken advantage of and abused and this and that. It's sexually, sought after and all of those things. That is a big mantle, and it's gonna ruffle a lot of feathers. But I think I have an answer, and I'm gonna stand like true to that, to the end. And that's gonna be to make women knowledgeable of their pussy. Yes, give them the power.
Yes, because it is a very powerful thing.
And once we do that, then we can teach them about it. Everybody needs to know about it and respect it and uplift it. And everybody is like, no one's gonna be counted out, men, women, and everything in between, if we exalt the feminine, because it all comes from there, no matter how you have molded and whatever throughout these lifetimes. So I get that is definitely like a heavy mantle. But once you kind of know, and I mean, you just accept it. I mean, I don't think I could be doing anything else.
All right, so I guess this is a really good segue into Tantra. So can you, like what is Tantra sex?
So Tantra means energy weaving, moving energy, right? And it's very much centered around your energy centers, around your, the chakras and the different cardinal points in your body. And, the tantric sex talks about how to heal and expand and grow energy within someone or between people through sensual and sexual energy, right? So a lot of people have issues, blockages, and the blockages are sexual, they're emotional, they're spiritual. And, certain touch is going to push that energy out in the best way. There's no other way than the way that sex, intimacy, touch, can do. That's how we were created. So if we want to create new things, we have to go into that energy. And, tantric sex doesn't necessarily mean intercourse. Sex doesn't even necessarily mean intercourse per se, but it's not excluded from. And so I would say that tantric sex allows you to also, let's say we are talking about like a physical interaction between people, take your experience from being very earthly to where you're kind of having sex on the spiritual realm, and you're able to do things like astral project, or you're able to orgasm and release and move energy out of your body that may be stuck. You know, I know so many people that are having sex and they almost have an orgasm. That is energy stuck in your body, and you can't get it out because there's not you're not embodied. You're not, usually most people are not present in their body, or they're not present with their partner. And so they don't know how to really move that energy out. We're just jacking off at each other. You know what I'm saying? So a few components of Tantra is going to be touch. It's going to be a lot of breathing. And it is a lot of really paying attention to the body and seeing how the body responds. And then the intuitive side that kind of comes with it as well. And having a background in some spiritual modalities and stuff like that does help, because, like I said, everything is connected, and we can't talk about breath without talking about air. We can't talk about touch without talking about earth. You know what I'm saying? So, Tantra is, I mean, if you see the different groups of practices, it could be anything from like the Japanese side, where women learn sex as a sacred science, learn how to suck dick, learn how to work with a man's prostate, learn how to kiss him, learn how to do all these things to one, heal, and to get to a place of kind of like immortality, where you stay in this youthful state for a long time in your life because of that high vibrating, consistent, like orgasmic lifestyle that, you know what I'm saying, you live. Very pleasure based. So, but it could also go to another side of Tantra where it's all energetic and you don't even touch it all. And I've had orgasms in my body that have a lot like electricity, but no one ever touched me, or either they just put their hand like over my abdomen or something like that, you know? So it is a vast practice. It's as vast as sex is. But a lot of it is a co-created experience that's very intentional, you know? So there is prep, there is preparation, and there is like kind of like a knowledge base and communication that you have to have if you're doing it with someone, so to speak. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, girl. So you talked about sex not necessarily, like you can have sex and not necessarily have penetration. Can you talk about different forms of sexual activity that doesn't involve intercourse?
Okay. So when I say intercourse, I mean like, you know, vaginal penetration, or like with another genitalia, right? So, I mean, or I guess maybe it could be like second base fingering, depending on your style. But, so one thing that I did, or that was done to me, was I was doing some breath work with a partner. And we were sitting together. They were, you know, just sitting on the ground. And I sat in front of them. And they were, you know, hugging me. They were rubbing me. They were kind of massaging, but more just being very intentional and conscious of where they were touching me as I was breathing. And before we started this, I said, you know, that I needed to have an orgasm, right? And orgasm is release. Orgasm is that surrender and allowing that higher vibration to come through. It's not squirting per se or different things like that. Those are all symptoms that show up when orgasm happens. But orgasm is energy. It's cosmic energy that is invisible, right? So as we're going through these things and I'm getting rubbed and touched, and nowhere is excluded as far as, I mean, it was just from the waist up because we were sitting. And yes, like my stomach and my breast and my nipples and my neck, and I may be being caressed or even being choked a little bit or whatever, but the flow of me bringing everything in and continuing to work to relax and release and surrender my body allowed me to release to a point to where I ended up like wailing out and singing like Mariah Carey, like, you know, and that connection with this person and us being heart to heart and sacral to sacral. And you know what I'm saying? That level of intimacy allowed me to have a release that I had an idea that I needed, but I didn't know that I needed in that way. Because when I said orgasm, I was thinking like, you know, beat this was it, you know, and it ended up being a higher level of connection and activity based off of body work and breath work and conscious connection. So, yeah, girl.
So I remember I was talking to a friend and she was saying that she had this tantra experience with a partner that she was no longer connected with. They were no longer together. And she said that she had to burn alive. How connected do you get from having those spiritual, intimate moments and encounters with a significant other through like tantra sex and things like that?
Oh, very connected. I mean,
like a soul tie?
I mean, I think that if you come into an arena where you're able to have tantric sex with somebody, you probably already have a contract or a whatever with them. You know what I'm saying? For the connection to already be made. Having the tantric sex may complete the contract. You know? But it can create one. I guess it's possible for sure. But I think like, so like one of my former partners, I still have experiences with him in like the spiritual realm. Not necessarily like we're just like having sex or whatever, but we're exchanging energy and I see him, he visits me, you know, like in that, you know, dream state and all that stuff. And I know that that's because of not even, the tantric energy and then like the sexual connection and all those things. But, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, intimacy on another level. And that connection is, real.
Yeah. I think it's even more realer than going to the courthouse and getting that piece of paper that says that you're married. Like it's a completely.
Now that you say that, I can see that.
Yeah.
So I mean,
how can we use tantra to connect more deeply to our partners and to ourselves? Because you can have like a tantra experience with yourself, right?
Yes, definitely. I call it, you know, like making love to yourself. So, I like to connect the, self-pleasure, you know, process to the five senses. You know, I'm even guilty of it, of sometimes just jumping right in and, you know, going fast and furious. But, if you get, you know, into a place where you set the scene for yourself, you know, have the smells right, you have the, you know, light right. I always suggest like a mirror or like a phone or something like that. And you really go through what I call like the 9 levels of orgasm, where you allow your breathing and you honor and respect that as like a first level, you know, or feeling your body clench up, you know, or feeling the tremors. All of those are various levels of orgasm. People dismiss all of those things and are not embodied throughout those times. So once they get to the big O, it may not be as big as they could have had it because they went too fast, you know, but you need to know what does your pussy look like? What does your pussy feel like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it sound like? You know, connect the 5 senses to your process and set your intention, you know, while you're starting to just court her. before you start actually going in or doing anything or bringing in toys. And then you can just let it rip and have your pleasurable experience and allow that intention that you set to be carried through that 9 levels of orgasm. And then maybe when it's over, come back to it consciously to say, all right, it's going to be a day, where I get this business deal closed, whatever. Or I was able to open my mind so that that's my meditation and get messages that I needed to get or what have you. I've had, I had a moment last night. I did a spiritual bath with my lover, and we were breathing and we were doing conscious touch, even just like on my arms and my wrists while we're in the bath. And there's, how I do. So the bath is not just a bath. It's got all kind of juices and berries and, medicines in there that aid into that. But from just her rubbing on my arms and sending me particular energy, I was able to travel and go. I saw places that we were gonna experience. I saw, different things. She wasn't she had a sore throat. So I was able to finally figure out what I could do to help her feel better, what medicines, different things like that. And I mean, that's the tantric part, is to be able to have this physical experience that is so pleasurable that you surrender and go beyond, where you are right now. And that is a nirvana like no other, and that has nothing to do with fucking. But after that, and then you do fuck, that's how the best babies are. That's how the best babies are made.
Okay. So I think you kind of touched on this when you were just giving your not expectations, but just giving your thoughts on how we can have Tantra, how we can use it to connect more with ourselves and with our partners, but manifesting. Mm-hmm. Did you say that you would manifest during Tantra after you have the experience or while you're having the experience, or just kind of give a brief overview of, or not even just brief, an overview of how can we use Tantra for manifesting? Right.
So you can definitely set an intention, and especially in self-pleasure, for me, set the intention and then have the experience, right? Because that's the meditation. If you were to meditate sitting down, you'd be like, okay, the intention for my meditation is this: to clear my mind, to da-da-da-da-da. And then you would do it, right? And then afterwards you would give gratitude and whatever. So that's the same thing, except for the meditation is the self-pleasure versus sitting, you know what I'm saying? But in partner, especially if I'm with someone that is on that level that can really be embodied and be in an emotional place, but also be conscious and, to communicate and tap in on that logical side, that's something that we could be doing throughout the whole process of pouring into each other and, loving on each other and affirming to each other and speaking into the pussy of how amazing and how bountiful and how much it creates. And, impregnating each other with certain energy, throughout the entire experience. I'm sure I'm not gonna be able to say too much at the end because the buildup should be so explosive. But I would say to integrate it if you can, but you have to be in a pure place where you let your ego go, where you don't feel weird or you don't feel whatever, because you're so beautiful. We're gonna, get this house, and do you see the house? And yeah, you're inside me, or yeah, we're breathing together, and maybe you're inside me, but we're not actively going. We're just, it's called lotus pose, where you're kind of sitting Indian style and your partner sits on you. And you're breathing, and you are connecting each other's energy. You're cycling each other's energy through breath. And while you're cycling that energy, you're generating whatever it is you want to manifest together. Right. And then send it out with that orgasm, which should shoot through the top of your head.
When you say send it out with the orgasm and you're saying release it through the crown, are you saying when you finally climax and when you get to that point of climax, that's when you focus on what the intention was at the beginning, whatever it was, whether it be the house, the business, whatever? Is that what you mean?
I mean, it depends. You can't do it like that, but I would say like I remember having sex and being in that certain place, and I just went back there just right now, and seeing cities. You know, I didn't say, okay, I want to try whatever. I mean, I knew my aspirations in my heart, but I let it flow to see what came to me. And once I saw it, I'm still in the process, right? But he's sending me the energy, right? And allowing me to just go. And then once the orgasm happens, I don't concentrate. I just release it. I let it go. You know what I'm saying? I remembered it like after it was over, and I'm like, okay, I saw Canada, I saw Denver, I saw whatever. We write down what came to us. Sometimes it could be like that, where what came to you while you were, having sex versus just like, so I would say if you're like trying to get a job, hey, me and my man want him to get this career, I would write that shit down on a petition or something like that and put it up underneath the mattress or underneath the covers and then have sex on top of it and don't even think about it. And just whatever, nut on it, or when you finish burning, light it in a candle to get the energy of it and that creation energy that comes with that tantric sex out into the ether. It has to go through one of the elements. It's going to go to the water. It's going to go through the air. It's going to go through the fire. You're going to bury it in the earth. You know what I'm saying? And so the sending the energy out is, to me, more air. That's why, send that energy out. But if some people have orgasms and it gets stuck right here and they can't fully, then it's still in me.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, breathing is a big part of that, and being open and relaxed. And I'm still working on it. Even last night, my partner was like, breathe, and we're so used to doing it while we're holding our breath that it's almost harder to consciously breathe and be in this place of like true center of relaxation. So, yeah.
How important is it for your partner to be on the same page when you're having this tantric experience? Like, can you have it and your partner is completely oblivious or ignorant to the fact of it or don't believe in it? Can you do it for the both of y'all?
Okay. You can, yes. Because especially if you're a woman, you gotta, what are you gonna create? What are you gonna create? Right? I have had partners that were more earthly, where it's like, give me that dick and I know it's gonna be good, and I knew I was gonna have an orgasm and I was gonna be satisfied. And while we're doing it, I am thinking about like, take this energy off of me that I've built from doing all this healing work with people. Or he may be a really hard worker, and so I want to channel some of that energy that he has into myself to be driven and to be whatever, you know what I'm saying? So you can do it, without them knowing and them not having any clue about the world. But I would say, of course, it's always going to be better when everyone's on deck and everyone's conscious and sending the energy in the same direction. Like, remember in Costa Rica when I had my experience and I realized the energy that I was in, and this guy, I don't know what, but I told him, I was like, this is the energy is life-changing. So be mindful. I had to tell him, be mindful what you're thinking right now and have it be positive. You know what I'm saying? So that at least whatever I was generating will be coming from a positive place or something, or, and not just be, I don't know, people can be very out of body and having very intimate experience. So, I'm always going to try to bring them in. But to be honest, it hasn't been as easy with some of my partners now. because I do feel like some people have this tantric gift. It can be taught, but some people just have an open kundalini kind of thing, you know? And so it is really great when somebody can go there with you, and that changes the game.
Yeah. It makes, it adds to the experience. But I want to ask you, just so I'm clear, when you say you're releasing whatever energy during this tantra experience, can you release trauma and negative energy if you set the intention with this tantric experience?
Yeah,
Wow.
people do it all the time. And that's why a lot of people are dealing with a lot of crazy ass things, because they are putting their traumas and things on people. I think it can be done in a conscious way and in an ethical way. And I think that people are just not present and don't realize that they're trauma bonding and just fucking each other because they want to feel connected to someone, but they have abandonment issues and stuff like that. When I speak about releasing on someone, I really am more speaking on, I do certain work where I take on the energy of others. And that energy, I usually take it, and the strength comes to and from my womb space. So I know that for me as a goddess, to have sex and to have that release, my partner who is a man, or I guess it's not necessarily even a female partner, depending on how they're built. They are built to take that energy from me and just like go poop it in the toilet. You know what I'm saying? To release it in a more physical way than what I can without, sweat and breath and orgasm of getting all of that out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm speaking more in like healing purposes of that way, where someone who has trauma, especially if it's sexual trauma and they're having sex, it could kind of do the opposite effect. But let's say that someone is repressed and they're able to get to a place where they can be open and releasing all that stuff. Yes, it can release those traumas, but the trauma isn't like kind of the act isn't feeding the trauma, if that makes sense. Like the act is eradicating it, so to speak, or releasing it through this freedom that people are allowed to experience through the range of pleasure.
So it's not a mechanism to forget the experience, but to face it. Okay, that makes sense.
It's damn near. Like, so, not necessarily totally tantric sex, but just so I can give you a different, like, thought process. I have a young lady that I train. She's going through the healed self journey. And we're talking about in the Queen of Hua book, sacred words. So how you talk about yourself. And I give them certain prompts and things that are separate to ask them how they were talked to growing up and all those things. And the girl said that she was ordered around, bossed around, like everything she did was like, even if it was one little thing off, she was totally horrible, all this stuff. And I thought to myself, she would be someone in the BDSM world that would be a great bratty sub. So a bratty sub is a sub that, is not just obedient, that talks a lot of shit, that is confident and speaks their mind, and their submission has to be earned, right? And I felt like her doing that practice would be very healing for her because of the trauma that she went through, for her to be in this space of open sexuality and expression, and having some sort of an authoritative kind of style relationship, but to be in an empowered space, because subs are empowered because you can't do anything without their permission. And then also to speak out how she never got a chance to, even if it's overboard, it doesn't matter, because it was so repressed as a child. And then when she goes into regular life, she'll be able to communicate with a balanced level of assertiveness and even, submitting to the process or trusting and all those things. So that's just an example of how like BDSM and like, because there's tantric sex even in that world, like can be used to alleviate a trauma or a trigger. And the same thing can happen in tantra if you don't even like to be touched because you were touched when you were young, and then you're able to understand touch in a different way and get out of your mental block and mind to let the emotion go through without having the traumatic reaction,
Okay.
And that's why a tantric practitioner who does yoni massage or lingam massage or people who have erectile dysfunction, different things like that, but they have it because it's something that happened to them. You know what I'm saying? And so we're thinking, oh, happy ending, or we're thinking whatever, but this is therapy. This is healing. And you may have to work on this over time, over months, to really get to a point to where you can have a full range of pleasurable and emotional release, and let go of the trauma of like being molested or being abused or falling off of a bike and it being a physical thing that created so yeah, the range goes pretty deep.
Okay. Yeah, that is deep. I'm going to have to explore that on my own, but how would you say spirituality is connected to sexuality?
Well, in spirituality and especially in religion, I think that all of them have what's called the creation story, right? And in the creation story, I mean, it to me, has the elements of birth, of something coming together, and then this supernova happening, and then something brewing, and then here come people, or here comes civilization, or whatever, And so I feel like the way to experience a high level of divine energy is housed in sexual energy, right? And so I think that to leave it out because that's how we all got here is a disservice to the rest of the whole everything else that we're connected to, so in that case, I usually find that the sexually free are usually also the spiritually free, or the sexually open are also the spiritually open, because we realize that space and recognize it and honor it as something that ties it all together, and connects us all, so yeah, that's what I would say.
So you may have just answered this next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Okay. Why is it important that we connect with our sexuality? Because I feel like for me, for a long period of my life, like my sexuality was shunned from my existence, right, and I didn't feel like a whole person. So how does that connecting with my sexuality make me a whole person? Why is it so important to do that?
So the thing is, I mean, hormones, just the basic chemical makeup of your body. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We have things on our body that are made just for pleasure, not even for procreation. You know what I'm saying? And so to explore everything else and to shun that is to shun a raw part of nature. And we cannot ignore, we can't escape it. Like life would cease to exist and we're done. And so to not have a sexual identity is to not know a part of you. It's to not to grow, to be a Black woman and to never experience the culture of it, to understand how you fit in it, to understand that you're if you identify as a female, but never be cultivated in how that expresses through you. And that sexuality is also a sector. It's a piece of the pie that, like I said, connects everything. So I don't know how it got like this, but it definitely is to me the glue that sticks everything together. And also, whenever we do that, it's harder for us to be manipulated, abused, taken advantage of, and all those things. So having a knowledge of, I'm conservative. I like 1, 2, and 3. I only like it a certain way. Everyone can't this, everyone can't that. Is empowerment if that's what you truly want and feel, and not that's what you're told you're supposed to do. And it doesn't really resonate with you. I'm a spirit that I've been here so many times. I don't even believe in clothes. I just, and to understand that that's not to be judged. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, that sexual connection, sensual connection, period, in intimacy and emotions is one whole, like it lives in one whole half of our brain. So we need it because it exists and it's a part of life and we all come from it. So, yeah, that's that.
I mean, obviously, because the sex industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So obviously everyone resonates with it, but it, for the most part, is done in the dark. It's done behind closed doors. It's hidden and not and that's expressed. When it can get dangerous. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely, because people are not empowered or knowledgeable.
Yeah. And that goes right into my next question, because like a lot of people that I know personally don't have very much experience with their sexuality before they commit themselves to someone else. So why do you think, or do you think it makes a difference for us to know our sexuality before we commit ourselves to someone else?
I would say yes, but I do think it's possible for you to meet someone and y'all develop it together, to go on a journey together. But I do think that you at least need to be knowledgeable about the environment. What is the sexual environment? What's the capacity, or what's the range of what, I would accept, or what is even possible for me, and once you know that, then you can choose to explore that with a trusty companion forever, or to, explore that across different ways before you commit. But I think that people not even knowing that certain things exist is dangerous, because in one way or another, the suppression of the person can cause like an explosion over time, because the animal in us is we can't ignore it, it will come out eventually one way or the other. Or if it is suppressed, it is unnatural, and the energy will not be right, because we're not living in our natural state of being, So I would say that, yes, you do need to at least know your body. You may not be able to know how you like sex or whatever, without engaging with someone, and maybe you choose that you don't want to do that in a casual way, but just understand that you're going to evolve from every experience, and that this person that you're going to commit to needs to be able to evolve with you. And 9 times out of 10, especially if it's out of the jump, that's not the case. You know what I'm saying? This was a stepping stone, not the home base.
I don't know. I guess I asked that because I know some people who have got involved, I'm not going to say with the wrong person, but with someone who used their innocence and their ignorance to manipulate and control them. And it's harder for them to get out of that, because they don't know who they are. They don't know that they have that power to make their own choices. They don't know how, like when you talk about the pussy and how important and powerful the pussy is, they don't understand that. And so that's why I think like obviously you have to have those experiences with someone in order to know your sexuality. You have to experience it. I mean, you can only do so much by yourself, but just like for people who come right out the gate and get with someone who manipulates that innocence.
Right. And I definitely agree. So at the sanctuary, I have a program called Initiating into the Religion of Me. It's the Goddess Initiation. And that program basically gives you a rundown of, one, how to live, a spiritual lifestyle and all those things, but also it makes you think about yourself from the creator standpoint of, this is my universe, and what do I want? What do I like? What do I accept? And so you're able to say by the end of it, like, I am Goddess Jessie. I'm the goddess of desires. When I am approached, it should be confidently, and it should be like this. I am comfortable with, even if I haven't tried it yet, I'm comfortable with exploring A, B, and C. I will not accept these certain behaviors, and so to be able to go through that process, and in the end, understand, like, these are my sexual beliefs. I believe that men who may do anal activity, I don't believe that they're gay. Or I don't believe that this is not something I believe. Let's say I don't believe in being intimate with someone unless we are in a husband-wife relationship or whatever, right? Like, to understand what your actual true boundaries are, and what your actual expectations are, and what you want to explore and what you want to figure out. Once you have that, then it's harder for someone to come in and sway you from your true north, is what I call it.
Yep.
And if you are willing to explore, you're able to do it with your own kind of bumpers, like bowling with bumpers, Mm-hmm. So, I definitely think that people are manipulated. And that's why I said with my mantle that I have of dismantling misogyny in the African traditional practice, the way that I am doing that is empowering these women to let them know, hey, you are a goddess. You are a sensual, burlesque, perform, you ooze it. So understand what that means, and understand what that does, and understand the capabilities that you haven't even tapped into, and understand that no one is exempt from being desiring and wanting you enough to try to manipulate to get it. Mm-hmm. Right? Understand that the power in what you carry can make someone do on the light and the dark side. But being like, oh, no, put that down. Don't touch it. Don't look at it. Just don't give it to nobody. Just don't. It's like, okay, but it's there. And she has needs too. She has desires too. And once that thing is connected, and it's connected ignorantly, bad things can happen.
Yep. So
that's my 2 cents.
I agree with all of that. Are you doing things that younger Jessie thought she would be doing?
So, yes and no. When I was younger, I used to read Archie comics and all those things all the time. And in the Archie comics, like, he's Polly, like, he's got Betty and he's got Veronica, and I'm like Polly's now, right? Or I used to read palm reading books and little spell books and stuff from Fiesta, this grocery store in Texas. And I remember thinking like, oh, like, I got to use a needle for this and I'm too little. I can't use a needle. So, like, I remember kind of having those little, like, kid moments where I was very curious about some of the spiritual type things. I never said I wanted to be a priestess, ever. I think I said like veterinarian or like different things, but never, ever somebody in a clergy, position, even though it's not, Catholicism. So it's interesting how the worlds have come together And I am doing what I want to do. I think as a little girl of just being very spiritually explorative and like into the occult, and even kind of sexually tapped in at a young age. Not that I was having sex, but I was very conscious of the construct of it. So like even when I was in high school, I used to help girls lose their virginities. I used to tell them how to do it, you know, when to do it so they wouldn't get caught, how to do it with their boyfriend so it wouldn't hurt, and things like that. So me talking about sexual freedom and spirituality, like it sounds about right. Now, did I think I was going to be a priestess doing it? No.
So what advice would you give to younger Jessie?
People ask me this often, and I would tell younger Jessie to research Oshun.
What advice do you think younger Jessie would give you?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think that younger Jessie would tell me, man, I think that she would tell me to make sure that I never forget about her. And to remember that I'm a natural born leader. Because that was on what I saw was the back of my Letterman jacket. And that's what was on the back of my Letterman jacket. And yeah.
All right. Well, that was all of the questions that I had. Thank you so much for joining. Did you want to give any last minute thoughts or last minute words before I wrap up?
Last minute words. If anybody out there is looking to, just tap into themselves. I know we talk about tantric sex and things like that, but it's a journey to get there. And it's very difficult to tap into these higher vibrational things when you're not knowledgeable of self and where you are right now. So if you need any support in that arena, you can find a home here at the Sweet Love Sanctuary, and just get some guidance more in the spiritual life coaching aspect, and sacred sexuality, spirituality, and all those things will be tied in underneath there. Yeah.
And where can people find you and more information on the Sweet Love Sanctuary on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter?
Yeah. So my website is sweetlovesanctuary.com. I'm Sweet Love Sanctuary on Instagram. I'm diving deeper into YouTube and Patreon and all those things. So all those links will be, in my bio on my Instagram. But I do a daily astrology report every day and all those things. So be on the lookout for that. And you could, book a consultation if you're like, I know you got a lot of things going on and I'm not sure how to get to you. And you can just book a discovery call and I'll kind of help point you in the right direction. And that link is in my bio at Sweet Love Sanctuary on Instagram.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you for your time, for sharing gems and your knowledge with us. It was very insightful. Until next time, continue to work towards knowing who you are and stay true to whoever you decide to be.
Ashe.
Ashe.